And welcome to a live Q&A talking Proxmox, virtualizations, networking with Two Guys Tech. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Tom. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you. Thank you for having me.
Do you know, I was looking at the live streams and it came up that it was just about 1 year ago that we did this. Was it exactly the same time? I didn't look at the date.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that and going over what we got right, what we got wrong, right?
Yeah.
Just to see what our premonitions were. We'll have to look and see, but yeah, it was about that time.
Yeah, about that time. I was like, man, it was a year ago. That was funny. But you messaged me and I'm just like, I have a goal. I don't usually set really New Year's resolutions or things like that, but I have a little bit of goal where I'm going to build, because I have the calendar that I send friends like you, but I want to send one specifically to do live streams so I can get more live stream schedule people. Like, this is the time slots I'm willing to do a live stream. Just grab these time slots and we'll go from there.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. I like the live streams. I was working on a video today. It didn't get finished because there's a lot of production that goes into making videos. That's, it's people to see the edited version of ourselves. I'm like, do you know how much of us is like repeated and then sliced up and thrown away? Like, if I've always thought it'd be cool if like the editing tools had an invert button, like take everything that we threw out. Here's this 30-minute video that's really concise that you're like, oh wow, this is a great 30-minute video. It teaches me something. Then you hit invert and it's 4 hours of ums.
Oh. Yeah. Oh yeah. How many times did I deliver the line over and over again, slightly better than the time before, but not good enough for my own standards? And yeah,
did I say TCP or UDP?
Oh man. Yeah.
What did I repeat? I had a video, I recorded it, and it was funny because I think I repeated the entire time. I can't remember what word I mixed up, but I used completely the wrong word throughout the entirety of the video for some reason. It had a completely different meaning. It wasn't just me saying the word wrong. It was a very similar word, but I just kept repeating it through the video, and I realized when it was all done, I'm like, oh man, this is bad.
Yeah, I've done that too. I think one of the most shameful things I've ever done was go through. This was years ago, and I put this video together, and I'd written the script, and it was for a network attached storage device, and I transposed the numbers in the model number because it didn't have a cool name. It was just the 432 or something like that, and I called it the 423 for the entire video. Didn't even see it. Hit go live, and I'm like, publish it. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, it was just killed me, murdered me. All that work.
Is funny.
Yeah.
So we put Proxmox in the title. I see. Someone says I'm about to be buried in snow tomorrow. We were just talking about that little side quest. I loathe trying to read any of the news about weather anymore. It's all turned into this insane level of clickbait. You're not going to believe the snowstorm of the century is coming tomorrow. And I'm just like, and if you read the details, we call it the UP, the top of Michigan, which is very, very different than where I'm at. So it's supposed to be 50 degrees here tomorrow, but they're getting in the top of Michigan, they are getting 65-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and they expect 30 inches of snow at the top of Michigan. Amazing. That is like 9 hours from me and not my problem.
Yeah.
So it's funny because they always say Michigan weather alerts. And it's like, well, what part of Michigan? It kind of matters. And so in 90% of Michigan lives, well, I'd say almost 99% of Michigan, because as you go further north, it's pretty sparse because guess what? Where it snows 30 inches, that's not the only snow. I think they get like a few feet. Guess where people don't really like living?
Yeah, exactly.
There is a small percentage of people that would live in a place. It is, I believe it is in the continental U.S., not including Alaska. It is the snowiest place in the United States, is the top of Michigan. It picks up all the lake snow from lake effect.
Yeah.
So they get hammered with it. But every news site is just like, I don't go on Facebook. I go on there once a day. I must have seen 10 different notices for it. And I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah, that sort of drama, right? Everyone wants to see the snowpocalypse. We had a here in the Pacific Northwest, we had this massive atmospheric river come through, like 2 of them in a row. And yeah, it was just like, it's the end days, the rivers are flooding. I mean, Washington got beat up, but yeah, it's the thing you look for. When I was a kid, when we were in school, that was like That was
Oh
the
yeah.
opportunity for having a day off, right? You didn't have to worry about school because they have to close it. The buses couldn't drive in that, but
Right, right.
yeah.
We looked for that at school. It was like, yay, snow day. Let's go play out in the snow. But nonetheless, what about Proxmox Manager? You did a review of that recently.
I did 1.0. Yeah, 1.01. Yeah. Before I say what I think, what did you think?
I liked it. This is where the convergence is starting to happen. I know the Homelab people love Proxmox, and it's been around for a while. It's a good Homelab product, etc. It's getting into the business market, and this is a tool they need to get into the business market with to be able to manage all of your different clusters, because frequently people have a lot of them. What people don't realize, or at least a lot of the people arguing in the comments about it don't, I should say, I can't say people. I know there's some really smart people here that are very aware of it. But XCP-ng is enterprise coming down towards Homelab because it's becoming popular. It's always had a lot of the features that you see in the data center manager by Proxmox, the way you can group things together, the way you can manage all of the systems at once. Those are features that have been around for over 10 years in XCP-ng. So they're really matured. They're much more polished to be able to do, the single pane of glass, and this not just in a single location, but a lot of the clients, some of the larger installs where they've got thousands of these, it's spread across data centers. So you can have one view across data centers. So when Proxmox calls it data center manager, that's kind of what it already has been in the XCP-ng. And it's not a dig at Proxmox. I'm loving to see that it's coming up, because Broadcom dropped this gift for people that are at the right place at the right time,
Right.
preaching open source virtualization. And we don't just have one choice, because when it comes to a lot of things, there's a narrow field. Like if you talk about NAS, me and you both know this, true NAS is king. Unraid's there, but they don't hold a candle to the market share that TrueNAS holds. And there's nothing wrong with Unraid, but Unraid's also not open source. So you start talking about open source NAS, and yes, I know Open Media Vault exists, but it doesn't nearly have the community and base. And that's unfortunately what happens a lot. That's what happened to the firewall field. And I know there is PF Sense and OPN Sense, but it's Open Sense doesn't have near as much. Netgate dominated, but then all the other ones went away, and I can't really name any popular open source firewalls anymore. They're just kind of faded out to the background. But when you have competition and some enthusiasm around it, I think that's exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing that I had to do, yeah, you hit it really well about the fact that the people, the businesses like XCP-ng, and VMware being enterprise down, they had put together all this stuff kind of very focused from the beginning. They had a plan. I think the thing that I've had to do with, let me first off say, I'm really happy with Proxmox Server Solutions doing what they're doing. They're in the right direction. The thing that I've had to kind of say to myself is, hey, calm down. They are going to do this on a slow, iterative process, which feels like, when I look at it, and because I mean, in the day job, I'm working with VMware, I'm working with Nutanix, I'm working with all these really big enterprise virtualization systems that they've got the centralized management down. They've been working on that for a long time. That is a core component. That's the value add for their software, right? And you look at PDM, and the first thought that comes to mind is like, oh, well, why didn't you just add the ability to pop open a console over here, or why can't you do these things? And you have to like take a step back and go, okay, this is not, they're getting there. They're taking their time, as much as it's a priority, I guess, for them, because they just went stable GA with it. I realize that my expectations are baked in an industry that's been going for, 2 solid decades, and more, right?
And you get with VMware, because it was so prevalent, and it's a billions. How many billions of dollars did they buy it for? Not one. Like, was it? I forget
$62 billion.
Yeah.
$1 billion.
Yes. So, I mean, to say it was well funded and had some momentum behind it, had a lot of community behind it to build those features.
Right.
It's Vates, I think they just crossed over, and I might be wrong about this. It may be more now, but I remember it wasn't that long ago, I should say, that they crossed over the 100 employee threshold. So, I mean,
that
and
puts
that's
it in
great.
perspective, right?
Yeah, you're talking about a 100-person company competing with a company that was just sold for $60 billion. Like, there's not, it is an insane number to think about. And Proxmox is even more mysterious because they don't publish. You can't really figure it out other than guessing. There seems to be like a handful of people that work at Proxmox. They do not do social media. They do not do posts. They are very private. You can defer based on their forums. That's about it, because you can see
Sure.
people that seem to claim they work there. That's the information. A little bit of OSINT you can do by looking in the forums and counting names.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I
interesting.
agree. Yeah, no, and I think that I've seen that they've increased their visibility on things like LinkedIn and places like that, where they're trying to shift. I'm happy that they have kind of struck the iron when this opportunity from Broadcom happened, right? The same thing for XCP-ng. Like the things that they're doing with the user experience in the GUI for the hypervisor. By the way, is the updated GUI out for XO yet or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. Okay, good. I need to spin it up. I got to play it now that.
Yeah. XO6. Well, wait till the January release. That's where they're going to have a ton of features in it. They did something interesting. They're now defaulting to XO6, but this is the big but. And I like the way they're doing this, though. When you click on something, let's say backups are not ready. So it flips you back to XO5. They actually
so there's
crisscross
two.
the links.
Okay.
So you build them both. You can still build from source. You do have to modify the source to say also build XO6. Okay. They are bug fixing, but feature completing XO5. Like we're just not adding new features. All new features go into XO6. But like right now, they're still working on the backup interface. So when you click on backup, it just flips you back to 5. But it's all just a web interface, so it just flips back and forth between the pages. But I've seen someone talking about dark mode. XO6 is dark mode. XO5 is light mode. So you go, oh wait, I'm blind. I'm back in the backups here.
Yeah, that's that, and I'm glad that everybody, I've seen also like big advancements done by companies like Verge.io and Scale Computing now that they've been acquired. We'll see what happens to them with their new master at the wheel. But I think it was one of the things that you and I talked about in our like year ago situation was like, what is the landscape going to look like? Are we going to have any leaders? I don't know. Do we have a leader yet?
No, I mean, I see some people talking Nutanix still. They seem to be, if I can guess, but really because of their hyperconverged only play, I think they're still niche. Like it's not for everybody. I just did some consulting, and it was with a pretty big company, and they weren't moving from VMware. They were moving out of the cloud. They were moving everything from Azure to a colo, which is its own pain in the butt. I seen someone ask the question, and this client got in just under the radar for ordering all this really high-end hardware, because there's like 768 gigs of RAM or whatever on each server they bought. I mean, they were loaded up servers for the workload they were putting on them. But I think they told me that less than a week after they placed the order confirm, it's en route, it's coming, the price would have jumped like 20,000 more because of the memory, some crazy number.
Oh, yeah.
And because of all the servers they motored, cumulatively would have been that much because the memory prices. And they said, we're lucky. We seen it happening, and they raised the prices on them already because it was in the beginning of it before the whole Micron. But they're like, people in the industry are knowing. So
yeah.
But their Nutanix wasn't even on. They heard of Nutanix. They asked me about it, but when like the consulting list they had was Proxmox, XCP-ng, pros, cons, Hyper-V, that was in the list. VMware not in the list. They just heard all the bad about it with the prices, and they said we looked at the pricing and it didn't make any sense for us. So it doesn't come up much, but I'm also a little bit biased because my consulting calls are inbound. And they're inbound because people watched me talk about it on a video. So they already got their mind somewhat made up in a direction to those two. If they're going Nutanix, they don't call me for consulting, generally speaking.
Right. Yeah. No, Nutanix just earlier this year officially announced what they call disaggregation, but it's only with Pure Storage right now. They do some kludgy stuff with Power Storage, which is Dell's product, but or PowerFlex, excuse me. But yeah, the funny thing about the Nutanix side is that if you go and you buy Nutanix gear from Nutanix, via VAR, you can't use disaggregation. It's officially something that they don't allow. They expect you to stay, and will only ever stay at this point, just hyperconverged only. So you get into you have to then go to like Dell or Lenovo or somebody like at HPE to get gear, and then they're like, oh sure, you can go ahead and use your external array as long as it's pure, which adds a dollar value of its own, right, for that kind of gear. So, But yeah, it's funny though that when you do that, when you go that route with Nutanix, so I think that Nutanix is a hands down a better company than Broadcom is.
Yeah.
Broadcom's one of those kind of companies that if you're doing business with Broadcom, you are explicitly accepting that they are not a reliable business partner. That at any minute they could turn around and just stab you in the back like an Arc Raiders game or something. But Nutanix is still expensive. It's still very expensive, right?
Yeah, it's still very pricey. And the other problem, and I mentioned this before, and Nutanix prior to the Broadcom was looking for a seller because the investors were not seeing the returns. The company wasn't doing, their financials weren't good. So they were talking about selling the company to any investors, but there weren't any takers for it. And which is a shame. Someone, some PE firm could have played the opposite play going, hey, I got an idea to make some money. Let's boost this up and try to capture the market with it. But they ended up not selling and holding on to it. They were not they're publicly traded and they were not a profitable company prior to. Right. They were losing money. But onto this question here is I don't know if you have any love for QNAP, but I don't have any love for QNAP software. I know QNAP can make some decent hardware and you can run NAS on it, but man, QNAP security is a nightmare. Have you run into this?
I've reviewed a few. Directly to the question, no, I have not ever personally deployed it in production environment, or have I ever seen people deploy production environments. I would say they sit mostly in that like consumer value segment, right? And not really even their bigger gear that, I think they've got real CPUs in them and that kind of stuff when they get to the rack mounted gear. But like, I don't know. I think that they compete with the value segment. And that's where they exist.
Yeah, they are. I have a video about their security shenanigans because they were ignoring security researchers and they had a lot of egregious bugs. They were slow to fix and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, you told me all about like the TP-Link shenanigans that they.
Oh yeah.
Too, right. Just that's still going on, right? I mean, that hasn't ever been changed. We're heading towards. Are we not headed towards entire blackout in the United States for TP-Link? Is that still in the cards? I haven't been paying attention to the news on that.
I can't tell. It seems, well, we'll just say to avoid the top altogether, it's really hard to keep up with the crazy that goes on in America right now. Yeah. One of my friends in Europe told me something funny. I said, what do you don't usually talk politics, but I did have to ask the question. What do you think what's going on in America? He goes, well, the part that bothers me is we don't have local news anymore. He goes, there's no, like the news is so obsessed with whatever's going on over there. We don't, if something local happens, nobody knows. He goes, it dominates the news cycle. I just kind of laughed. I'm like, yeah, that would suck. I said, I just turned the news off because I can't keep up with it. So I can't keep up with, is TP-Link banned? Are they not banned? We're banning them. Oh no, they're now a CVE numbering authority for some reason. And it seems to be the reason so they can hold back on things. I'm like, yeah. And then if I remember, I seen some headlines about DGI's banned, which okay. DGI, it's now DGI was doing some shenanigans. But I can't tell if they were doing it to bypass security or just bypassing the way Google Play Store works. They were downloading these blobs outside the Play Store. This happened a couple of years ago, and they violated some of the Play Store rules. I just don't know why they were doing it. Was it nefarious? Was it, some problem, or this is the way they came up to do it? I don't know. It's weird because I got to admit, and I actually laughed because it was I don't watch too much Louis Rossmann. I like what he's angry about, but I don't have time to watch people who are always angry about something. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So it's like, but one of them was really funny. He had a short clip, and the clip would anger me because it's one of the reasons I don't buy much from DJI. He tries to use a camera and it tells him you have 3 more uses before you have to register. And it's like, it's forced registration with an app and a sign up before you can keep using the camera. It lets you unlock the camera like that many times. And he was just swearing at it. And it was really funny. And I was like, okay, he's angry. And this is, yeah. So, I don't love that aspect of the company. They were very slimy in that way, in my opinion. Like I want to be able to use products and not have them locked to a cloud registration. That stuff drives me bonkers. I used to have a
Yeah.
DJI drone when they first came out, and I hated all the stupid registration I had to do just to get the stupid drone to work. I remember wanting to fly it to do, because I was filming some projects, infrastructure projects with it, and I couldn't because it would not let me go past the update screen, because when the app on my phone updated for the launch, failure to launch until you also update the firmware. It just locked right there. I'm like, I just want the drone to fly and hit record, but it was like fighting me on it. I'm like, yeah, this is stupid.
Yeah, I have one too, and same thing. I was so in love with the Mavic Pro when it first launched and used it. But where I live, there's a private airport literally every 10 feet from you, apparently. So the instant it goes off the ground, it goes, oh, you're next to an airport. And you're like, oh, come on, man. I'm not even 10 feet off the ground.
Yep.
So it's just gave up on that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
they're banned everywhere now too. So you can't take it anywhere.
Yeah, that stuff drives me crazy. Speaking of companies that, and I talked about this before, and I'll bring it up again because I love what this said. So I was at the UniFi World Conference, and I believe you switched to UniFi.
I just converted. Yeah, I'm a convert now.
So it's a good topic here. So the CEO comes out on stage. One of the first things he says, and I hate that he has to say it, but I'm happy he said it. He said that he believes you should buy a product and own it. That's how he started out his talk. And he said, no registration, no cloud. He says the investors love subscriptions. The investors love lock-in. He goes, Wall Street loves lock-in. He goes, I won't let it happen while I run this company. Like, he was very doubled down. He got applause. And I think that was good to hear, because there's a lot of people, and there was a long forum post where someone was very critical of me, and I engaged with them, and they were right on a lot of aspects, but other people wanted to dogpile in on stuff that they weren't right, because someone's like, Tom, you used to hate UniFi firewalls, now you don't hate them. I'm like, well, we hated on them because they didn't do the thing we wanted. Now they do the thing we wanted, and we don't hate them. There was a time when the firewalls, the earliest releases of the UDM, the very first gen software, because it's not a hardware thing, had a cloud registration on it, and people complained, and they removed it, and they have not had it since. That was all the way back in 2018. That's how we celebrate companies. I stop hating on a company when they start doing the thing we like. Then we get happy about it. Like, that's how I think it's supposed to work. I'm mad a thing is happening. Louis Rossman, if he was able to buy that camera and it just worked, he would go, oh, thank you for listening to me. I'm not angry anymore. Right.
Absolutely.
That seems like you can't just hate them forever.
Yeah. This technically is not the first time I used UniFi for a firewall. I bought the UDM when it first came out, and it was terrible. And I was like, I'm not going to use this. And I returned it, and then let's shoot here, another 5 years into the future. And like you said, the iterative process, they've produced an actual usable, viable product. And that's what we want. Like, yeah, there's that saying, Tom, and I know you've heard, like, brand loyalty is for suckers, right? You shouldn't be loyal to anybody because they're not loyal to you. You vote with your dollar. That's what we should all be doing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, if companies do good, give them money. If they do bad, don't give them money. It doesn't have to be an ideological thing. It's just, that's how we do it. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. It's unfortunate right now, though, because there's so much monopolization in there. It's hard to vote with your wallet because there's so few choices. So it's UniFi is like the standout. UniFi, MikroTik are like the two companies out there that, and MikroTik doesn't have near the ecosystem UniFi does, but at least they don't have a bunch of licenses attached to the stuff. So I also just, I seen someone saying that the super chat's not working. I have no idea why it's not working. I will look real quick, but to my knowledge, I have nothing special going on here. It's the normal
YouTubes.
I'll just look real quick at the settings, but I don't see anything. It's the same settings I always have when I go live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the thing about MikroTik is they have something that UniFi doesn't have, and that is really solid high-speed gear. And I just wish they would get together on a centralized management platform.
Yeah.
They would take the world by storm if they did, even if it was rudimentary at first. They could do the whole PDM approach and just iteratively make it better. That would be great. I'm not sure why they haven't.
Yeah, okay. I see everything's at default. So for people asking about where the problem is, it's YouTube's problem, and I don't have that kind of power. My name is not. This is Lawrence Systems. This is not Linus Tech Tips. I can't just call up someone at YouTube and say, "Yo."
You don't have a personal rep from YouTube calling you and make sure everything's good.
No.
Uh,
No. Someone says, what do I think of RustFS for the Homelab? I just did a video on RustFS. It works great. I'm going to say it's a solid MinIO replacement. I don't know what the future looks like for it because people are considering going, well, it has maybe some commercial angles. And I'm like, yeah, I like open source that has some commercial angles. So I like when there's a way to sustain the people developing it. I don't know that means no. I don't understand what went on at MinIO to cause them to do what they did. Like they just like nuked themselves and destroyed the community. I don't understand what angle that is. We've certainly seen companies change their license for often reasons that are protective of the property that their intellectual property. And the reason for that, for example, if you read like the Elastic controversy when they switched their license around, so Elastic would make money hosting. Well, Elastic is not a hosting company, so they use AWS as a back end. So then AWS goes, we'll host it for cheaper. And that was kind of a problem because they're like, well, that's how we pay our developers. And AWS is like, well, that's how we make money, is giving away people things to host and use on our servers. So they changed it to where only they could do it. I forget what they call that, like the open core or some other license, whatever the license is. I'm not an expert, not a lawyer, and I'm not your lawyer. So whatever the license is called, where no one else can host it but the company that made the software, angered people greatly. And that's where Elastic got forked. But I think the fork didn't get maintained as well, which was, I think, OpenSearch, and now it's all back to Elastic. I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but I understand why companies do things like that, because if they have a funding model that relies on hosting and they lose their funding model, then they can't keep developing the software. That's a different situation. MinIO, I mean, they had professional services, they had an upsell version, but then to just go stop producing binaries and become a source available company only, I don't know what made them decide to do that. Kind of weird.
Yeah, I seeing that happen, it did feel like there was, I mean, something must be going on in the company as far as like solvency, because those are calculated decisions that hurt your business and hurt the community. So, they obviously thought that they could get away with more than they did. And I mean, the backlash was the backlash. Like they removed essentially the administration functionality that you got with the web GUI, right? First, that was the first thing to go. You could still use the older version, but it was still not the same thing. It's sad when we see that, because there's always that there's a juxtaposition between open source and feeding yourself.
Yes.
Right. And so I don't think that they can be, or they don't have to always be mutually exclusive. I think that they can be inclusive. It just has to be done tactfully with the support of the community. And if you just decide unilaterally, you're going to burn bridges. And that's what they did. Yeah.
Like I said, it's kind of a weird move. And RustFS was just at the right place at the right time. They didn't develop after, because someone asked why people just didn't fork MinIO. And I think it's written in a way that it just didn't have enough people that wanted to jump on it. And I believe there is a fork I found, but it's like immediately like, I forked it. Then what? Well, nothing. I forked it. See, it's in another GitHub, but no one's really doing anything. Someone built an automated build pipeline, but it's one person doing it. And I don't know. I think people are worried about it. It didn't get like a community after it, versus RustFS was kind of sitting there and waiting. They started in 2023. They started without releasing all the code open source. Once it reached somewhere in 2024, it went open source, and now we're sitting at the end of 2025 and it was gaining popularity. The reason it was gaining popularity is they would compare themselves to MinIO and it was substantially faster. And I got to admit, like, I didn't do A/B testing and set up MinIO against it, but I was impressed with just how zippy it was, because it's the same system I used to run MinIO on. It's one of my lab systems, but I'm like, I always remember MinIO being kind of slow, and this thing is like really fast. But so that definitely was a big plus. I think that's why people, instead of forking it, they go, well, this exists and it's nice and has a lot of features and it's got a nice web interface. It's actually, I think, easier to set up than MinIO, and just, I don't know, kind of the only thing that was a little bit, have you ever done like AWS IAM rules for buckets?
No, I have not. Yeah.
They're all JSON rules in a very concise format. Good news is it's a standard. Like there's even all kinds of like tools out there that generate the rules for you. So you can punch in what you want and say, give me the rules, and it gives you the JSON for it. That's how you manage the bucket permissions. The nice thing is you don't have to know them. If you just use it to create a bucket, the bucket works. But there's no security on the bucket. So if you want security, you have to add the rules to say restrict bucket to these parameters, this key, etc. Which is fine for the home users. A lot of home users are like, well, I only need one bucket, and then you're all set. But for the businesses, you just plug in the IAM rules, and wink and nod here. ChatGPT happens to know IAM rules because it's seen a lot of them when it was ingesting data, and it seems to produce them just fine. So you don't actually need to know how to write them. Just tell ChatGPT what I want, tell it the name of the bucket, and it will just kick out the rules. I want to have read, write, or this object or that object access, and away it goes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hadn't had a chance to see your RustFS video, and it was brought to my attention by one of our Discord members. And, you know, it kind of surprised me, and I need to watch it because I use MinIO at work. I use the open source version, because I have this very niche case that doesn't justify spending the money for it. And it had always shocked me that was the only open source S3 at the time, was just MinIO, and that was it. So I'm glad to hear that there's something new, and something I'm definitely going to try.
First, a quick shout. Thank you, Bearded IT Dad. And yes, super chats are working. So just for anyone who didn't know, I see someone complain about it. And like I said, it might be a YouTube thing because clearly that worked. But so Garage, which is a terrible and hard to find thing, because if you're trying to say Garage object storage, I will tell you what, you won't find the Garage object storage open source project. So they suffer from some SEO. So I linked them when I did the video on RustFS. I mentioned at the end because I did play slightly with Garage and SeaweedFS. SeaweedFS was just weirdly felt overcomplicated, and I didn't care for it. Garage seems like it's got some cool features, but had a lot more complexity in the setup. So after playing around with it and realizing even in TrueNAS, you have to get in and build the schema for the bucket. So even though you set it up and follow the template, you then got to go in. But it also, even though you click the little icon, it didn't open up a bash prompt. It said that bash wasn't available. So I'm like, oh, so I can't open a bash prompt. So you got to go to the command line and play a lot. And then you got to load these schemas. And I'm like, yeah, it just seemed like more setup. And I looked around, I couldn't find anyone with a guide to like a one-click install for it. So even though you can install it, I just didn't see anything obvious. RustFS, boom. It's like super easy to set up. Like it's like these people meant this to be set up really quick. Yeah. Of course, it defaults to permissive rules, but outside of that, I didn't complain. But it was not in any way difficult to build those rules. What I might do is a follow-up, because RustFS has a really cool feature built in. If you run it in Docker, I think you get, there's some control you have in TrueNAS, and I think I could probably get it done in TrueNAS, but I'll have to play with it. But easier, I think, in Docker, you could tie a whole bunch of these together and do like erasure coding and have them back up and sync to each other. And it's got a whole lot of tooling for that, which is pretty cool. So that's kind of natively built in. You can even point it directly at hard drives for the object storage. If you're doing it in Docker, you can say, this goes to this hard drive, this goes to this hard drive, and it builds its own object RAID system. I didn't dive deep into it, but I'm like, this is cool. And then you go in the web interface and you add all the other nodes. So you set up a bunch of different disparate containers in different locations, and you can tie them all together and create one node and like resiliency between them for your object storage. It's got a lot of features. Now I kind of see it's got more stuff than MinIO, or maybe only the paid version of MinIO had. Sure. But it's got documentation on it. I'm like, this is kind of cool. And I can see why people would just go with this than forking MinIO.
You know, it makes me ask the question, why doesn't TrueNAS have a native S3 functionality in it?
They used to.
Did they?
Yeah, they used MinIO, and they moved it away. Yeah, so if you go back, older versions of TrueNAS actually had in the share menu. The reason they moved it out is there was too many updates because of security problems. So they used to have to do too many point releases, but like, oh, found a flaw in S3 bucket. And if you look, MinIO has had a handful of vulnerabilities that were found in it. So they just said, we're going to slide that over here to the application where it can just get updated every time there's an update, as opposed to us having to respin a point release just because there's another flaw found in it. I think that's reasonable. They did the same thing with rsync, which, by the way, there's a major CVE in rsync that just got dropped on December 26th. So once again, I don't blame TrueNAS for going, we don't want that as part of the base OS. We spin it out as an app where it can just get updates whenever updates are needed.
Sure. Yeah, it feels like though they could wrap that as part of their middleware, and since the middleware is all built around, I'm assuming their middleware is now
Yeah.
Docker or Podman, right? Versus being Kubernetes like it was, but that would give them the whole scale part of scale.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're right, if they completely wrap that in there, I see, I think I need to do a video about this because I see someone else asking about it. What about Ceph? And I mean, Ceph is cool, but Ceph isn't the same. I mean, Ceph is good for distributed object storage. And I know this person does know the difference between it, but there's a few comments that came up where, Tom, why didn't you just use Ceph instead of RustFS for object storage? I'm like, Ceph is a base by which you can set. And I know there's Ceph, the S3 object thing that can go on top of it, but yeah, that's not exactly the same thing. Ceph is great for a lot of scalable infrastructure things, but it's not the solution for everything. I'm probably going to work on a video with 45 drives, like Ceph versus ZFS, so people can have the debate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with Ceph though, to really get the value of it, you need to have at least 4 nodes. I know you can get away with 3, but like Ceph requires you to have disparate nodes, independent nodes. That's the whole point. So, yeah, that's a good point. Like I am surprised that the TrueNAS doesn't offer Ceph, but then again, that really doesn't fit into.
No,
well, they do iSCSI and they go fiber channel over Ethernet now. So yeah, I mean, you could make a case either way, I guess, honestly.
Yeah, and well, yeah, the team there has really good expertise in ZFS, and the team over at like 45 Drives has expertise in Ceph. But what I've learned a lot working hand in hand with 45 Drives is the effort they go through to find Ceph people is to the point where they've been running college programs to make Ceph people because they can't find them. The demand for Ceph exceeds the number of people able to service it right now. So anyone listening,
there you go.
If you can get not learn Ceph, no, not I set it up. You have to be able to undo the dumb that people have done and not lose the data in the process. That's the people they need. They need Cephperts. I'm trying to put the word
Cephperts.
Yeah, how do we call it? It gets naughty really quick.
Oh yeah, it does. You got to be careful how you enunciate that.
Yeah. But nonetheless, it is because of the complexity of stuff. Like, it's beautiful when it works. It's not beautiful when it doesn't work or when it's having problems. And that is, I mean, I know, and I don't know exactly, but I think their price starting at some of the troubleshooting is a $4,000 deposit, and we'll get started on troubleshooting your Ceph cluster. Like, it is, it is a lot because the engineering that goes into it. That's why TrueNAS is like, they're just not going to touch it. They're going to double down on ZFS because ZFS will, if as we know, for those of us to work in corporate, there is a budget we have to do something. I, for the same budget, can build you a much faster, substantially faster ZFS system than a Ceph system with that same budget. Because like people mentioned the 4 nodes or the crazy networking you need for it, it takes a lot to get performance out of it. It's not impossible. But when you look at the, 45 Drives has done some of the performance stuff. If you spend some time in the Ceph subreddit, yeah, there's a lot of it in there. But look at what they built to do that. You're like, oh, we achieved this many IOPS. It's only a $90,000 system. I can do that in 20,000 with TrueNAS.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, when you have to build that many nodes into it, your inherent cost of hardware is much higher. There's just no way around it, right? That's I mean, you get a whole lot more redundancy and like you said, with erasure coding and things like that, you can do some pretty incredible things. It always comes down to like the specific use case, what people want to get out of it too. Like these smaller companies that, that are looking to use Proxmox and like that, they don't necessarily have the skill set to want to be also using Ceph, especially now with if they roll PDM, they don't even need to be in a cluster. They can just say move the workload and it just moves it as long as they can talk to it. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I love we played Ceph Jenga at 45 Drives, pulling pieces of the system out while it was live and running. It's like, there's some really cool stuff that you can do with it. And like someone said there, if you're building petabyte scale systems, we had a client that's got like 3.5 petabytes. They moved to Ceph because that is what makes sense. And they also have the budget to do that and keep expanding it. one of the larger clusters I've seen was a 36 petabyte system. And I know there's bigger ones out there. I'm just on people I know that have worked on them and talking about all the challenges of managing 36 petabytes of data, which is wild. So it's definitely, if you have that kind of a data problem, yeah, ZFS is probably not, if you got 36 petabytes of data and a lot of parameters around it for uptime, Ceph is probably the right thing for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, again, that goes down to use case. Like, how much redundancy and fault tolerance do you need in your storage, right? And what's your latencies? Then you start looking at some really big systems to try to manage that, especially at data sets of that scale.
Yeah. Because think about how you back up that
Right.
becomes very challenging, because there's no easy way. Ceph doesn't have the same concepts of like ZFS replication. So ZFS replication's out. So now you have to do synchronization. How are you synchronizing across 2 geolocations, petabytes of data? That can be a lot.
Yeah, especially on the need for the high speed part of Ceph, right? Because Ceph really is incredibly sensitive to latency when it comes to that sort of replication. So,
oh yeah,
you're not in the gate for less than 10, right, at a minimum, and then after that point, you're looking at 25 and 100 and beyond. And how do you fire that across a WAN to someplace? Like,
yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, it's fun. And I haven't seen, because like this is what was unfortunate. There was some tooling so you could use Gluster to make ZFS work. ZFS and Gluster could play along well. Unfortunately, Red Hat, they decided they weren't going to do it no more, but they decided that after TrueNAS Scale was announced. So if you wonder what happened to TrueNAS Scale, they announced it. They started building with Gluster. They didn't finish. And it's a shame, because it's a lot of dev work and no developer wants their code they worked on to be just thrown away, but they didn't really have a choice. The whole thing just went south, and they're like, well, the thing we were basing on is ZFS plus Gluster is gone. So they eliminated the name TrueNAS Scale because it's no longer a scale out system, and it's just TrueNAS Community now.
I wonder if there was a decision on their part whether or not they should take on Gluster as a project. They must have. They had to have gone
not enough resources. Not enough resources.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. They already maintain their own code base, right? So that's the business, and the business is now probably can't handle running another open source project on top of that to support it. But
this is the challenge they even run into when you look at what Netgate's up against. I mean, Netgate's a pretty massive contributor to the FreeBSD, but without it, and this is where you can see that there's a lot of people maybe contributing to a project or even something like FreeBSD, but what are they contributing? Because you can say, hey, Netflix contributes a lot to FreeBSD. They sure do. Do you know what Netflix doesn't care about? Your Intel i225 2.5 gig network card, because they're not using it. So they do not spend much of their time. Netflix has all kinds of contributions that are not that. Netgate is the one contributing a lot of network card drivers because they care about them, because it matters to the product they sell. So yes, people have agendas. They don't just contribute because they contribute, and not all contributions are the same. Some make firewalls work better, and we can guess who's doing those contributions.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Do you think that, speaking of that, do you think we're looking at a period of time when Netgate would consider dropping BSD and going to Linux?
They already have. It's called Tensor. So they will not port. I can't see any future. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see any future where they try to port over the PF filter system. It is the embedded thing that's unique, that not that it's impossible. I mean, anything's possible if you got enough budget and some really smart people that can code it all and bolt it onto Linux kernel. But think about trying to get something like that done in a Linux kernel in the same way. And because it's so fundamentally different, it's even interesting as I've been going through and reverse engineering how UniFi does things. They are, I'm not going to say pushing the limits, but they certainly have some very complicated rules, the way they chain them together in Linux to be able to do the things they do. And to build the amount of tooling is no small task, because even UniFi, it's not that they don't have the money. This is why some people are like, why isn't there another open source firewall, or why don't these companies get it right? I was like, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of developers. I know kernel developers. I've been in the market for a while. But if you handed me $100 million and said, Tom, build a firewall, I'd say, no, you didn't give me enough, because finding the talent is that hard. Yeah, and I know Tensor is just a router, so it's not really a complete setup or a firewall. I complete that context does matter, so I should have
Sure.
probably said that on there. But like I said, that's their Linux bet is that because yeah, but it's so hard to find talent because even the original founder of Monowall, then pfSense before he left, I can't remember his name right now. Someone will throw it in the comments. He worked for UniFi for a number of years, and he probably got them further along, but it's not enough just to have. It's just people don't realize the task it is to write a firewall right now in modern times and give it the features you want. There's that one guy that his name eludes me, but he's building the really cool open router. His project's been going really well, other than I know memory prices are going to hit him. He's using the vector packet routing, so he's building a sub $500 open. Is it DDR DDWRT or Open W? One of those ones. That works in it. It's really cool because it's inexpensive, it's open source and open hardware, and he designed the chips himself and everything else. But it's all command line driven. It's like it's just run on that.
Right. Yeah, I guess I've wondered when it comes to the high performance side of things that the one thing that's really effectively you go with hardware manufacturers like UniFi building their software firewalls on what's effectively standard PCs, right? I mean, they're purpose built ARMs, or I think I've got the big one, the Enterprise Gateway Fortress Gateways. I think that's an actual x86 box, right? Because it's got a big chip in it. But
they're like 40 for example, uses a bunch of ASIC chips, but it's getting to be more and more chips. And it's Tomaz Zaman. Look him up. His YouTube channel is great. He walks you through the entire step-by-step process of how do you design a PCB and how do you build a product. He just started out this whole thing. It's kind of, I love the enthusiasm, and it was a fun learning experience watching his videos. He just posted a couple more recently about, because you can like pre-order his product and things like that. It's pretty cool. But by the way, it's still a tinkerer's board. This is not a commercial firewall solution.
Right. Yes. And do you want to put that on the edge and protect your network?
Right.
Maybe a few iterations. Give me a few versions in there, a few actual full releases, then we'll talk. But you touched on it a bit. Like I look at like UniFi and I wonder if and the answer for better performance ultimately wouldn't be adding ASICs, right? Something that they can really like I don't think the UDM's got ASICs in it. It's probably just simple ARM, and they're just pushing it through on the clock, right? So
they are, but they're also because they control, this is the Apple thing. Like the M1 Silicon's amazing on Apple because of them controlling the software and the hardware so tightly. They're not building to a reference design of x86 because that's very challenging. They're building the design of the chip, and they do have like co-processors or custom chips in there, like for acceleration. That's why WireGuard is so fast on them. They seem to have not. I don't mind that Ubiquiti's doing this. It does hurt them a little bit in the short term. Their IPsec performance kind of sucks, but they're not going to do anything about it because they're like, Future's WireGuard. How much time should we carry on legacy stuff that we know has how much time do we put into it? I know IPsec will last quite a while, but
it'll be around forever, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's still running an ISDN line, I'm sure. But it's like everything. It's long. Legacy has a long tail, but UniFi controlling the platform really well. They've actually built a really good product that routes really fast. I mean, the fact that I can buy like the UDM SC, I think that does half, like 5 gig. So half of a 10 gig. It's got 10 gig ports, but with the tooling, Suricata, things like that turned on, it can still run about 5 gigs. That's impressive for a thing that costs like $700.
Oh yeah.
And then you could buy 2 of them, $1,400, and have an HA pair of them for $1,400. That's crazy inexpensive. I'm running a pair of them right now in HA. It's just like, that's just, yeah. And a lot of people like yourself replace pfSense with it because people are complaining because they're like, oh, I want a pfSense that does that. I'm like, oh yeah, they got the new, is it the A300? They're like, but it's $4,000.
Yeah. Yep. That's the problem.
Yep. It's $4,000. So it's $4,000 and it routes as fast as it's one of the UDM SEs.
Yeah. That was such a painful thing. I mean, I like I said, I just said earlier that loyalties for suckers. It did hurt a little bit for me to switch because I had fully embraced that product. I knew it back and forth. When I had a kid trying to spin up a game server on his PC, I could instantly figure out what was going on. Like I knew that it's just end to end. And but you know, when you start to really compare where they've moved that product, and you're like, I can get the speed and spend a lot of money and still have kind of a lot of that legacy. It just hurt. I had to do it, you know. So
Yeah. And
I sure hope they change. I hope they bring themselves a little bit more attention into it because they could. It's a great product. I still
yeah.
think it's a great product.
Yeah. The thing that UniFi is catching up on finally is I love PF Top, and that is like a missing feature. We have
Mm-hmm.
the traffic flows, but and someone was complaining about this that they're less expensive devices. They don't have full traffic flows because they're not fast enough to do it. And I'm like, sacrifices were made because they're like, but you can do it in PF Sense. It's like, can you though? Have you ever really played with the little tiny ones and turn those
Yeah,
features on?
yeah.
It's painful. Even the 2100s, like, yeah, sure, those buttons are there. They probably shouldn't be.
They're there for everybody, right? It doesn't care, right? Yeah. No, that's a good point. But I think that a lot of people who are buying those, that's not most reasonable people wouldn't expect that
No.
sort of performance out of those tiny boxes. But I'm sure there's people who do. Like, well, if it's there and I can turn it on, why doesn't
Yeah,
it work?
like I think the UniFi Express 7 doesn't do full flow tracking of all the flows, but it's also, I don't know, I think that box is like 229 or something like that. And by the
Mhm.
way, also routes at I think 3 gig. So you can have a 3 gig internet connection and still route on a
Yeah.
box that costs a few $100.
Yeah,
That's
that's great. That's phenomenal. That is again why they're kind of winning, right?
oh yeah. Yeah, I seen our friend Clay did that video about MSP switching to it. And I seen all the hate. No real MSP is switching. And I'm like, yes, they are. Now, granted, once again, I have a different insight because I do consulting and MSPs contact me on the regular. And
Hmm.
everyone's like, oh, it's only small MSPs. I'm like, oh no, some of these MSPs are 10, $20 million a year. They're quite big. They're doing, I mean, one of the people that want to consult me, they have 22,000 people across their networks that they're doing. I'm like, they are doing a massive switch from Meraki to UniFi. Massive.
I'm all for that. Good for them.
Yeah, good for them. They said they just can't believe what they pay.
Yeah.
Basically, they manage. They're one of the largest like apartment management or something. I don't know, something along
Hmm.
apartment management. And every single site they do the Wi-Fi for, and the numbers were quite big. The 2,000 or 3,000 locations and this many users. And I'm like, yeah, but they're moving it all to UniFi because they've started using it. And they go, this is cheaper and it works. We can put HA pairs in each of our places because they're not on site, and anytime you can be on site less, you're happy.
You're making money that way. Yeah. Can you imagine what their UI online dashboard looks like? Just like scrolling for days and days and days.
Well, no, I don't know if you knew this. One of the things you can do in Unify, I can't show mine right now because I got a couple things in there but I'm working on this as a video because it's going to be released in January. You now can do groupings.
Oh, nice.
You can
Nice.
group companies together. You even have full RBAC control. So I can tie and federate where different identity providers like Google or Microsoft, and then you can enroll your employees. If you're a managed service provider or an internal
Mhm.
IT team, you can enroll your employees and then fully control their onboarding and offboarding with SSO, all tied to a dashboard. Then you build sites, and all the site groupings can be grouped together by client. So if you have client Acme and that has 4 locations, then you can create a group for all 4 of their locations. So everything gets tiered. It's really nice. Like,
Nice.
they're building out this entire, and the reason UniFi is doing it is they know that's where they have to go, because if they want to achieve the MSP market, that's what you have to have.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do that and you don't have to pay a single red cent every month for your cloud
Yep.
management, which is
And they got the templates. They're not finished with all of them, but they have like Wi-Fi templates, so you can apply it to. You can go to the template and say apply this to all these groups or all these sites, and
that's good.
if this is popular amongst people who do restaurants. Like if you have a chain of restaurants, you want the Wi-Fi to
Yeah.
be the same. Being able to have a template that you adjust that says make all these have the same makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. You see that in big business too, where you can apply, you can roll out an entire new building with APs and just say target with these tags and apply that template, and poof, there they are. They work. I mean, those are good tools. Those are tools that you expect from a company who's serious about growing their not just the MSP, but just the overall support, right? For all
Yeah.
those kind of stuff.
Yeah. The combine that with just kind of their overall ecosystem. I mean, I do have, it's out of reach, it's over there. I have the new little travel router. It's kind of cute. It's fun. I can't believe how tiny it is. I don't know if you've seen this thing. Have you?
No, I think we talked about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna grab it. It's on a desk over here. So I haven't really reviewed it, but man, this thing is just, look how small this is.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that's awesome.
and it's got this little connector on it. But yeah, but what makes it neat and why it's not your average travel router, once again, it's kind of the ecosystem. You can pick it up over Wi-Fi, like I can tell it to attach a Wi-Fi network, or I can plug it in here. But when you plug in on the LAN side and then you plug it into a laptop, or you can have it broadcast Wi-Fi, it will, when you pair this to your site, it matches your home Wi-Fi. And
Oh, nice.
so that
That's
way you
legit.
don't have to do anything. It's in sync. So it's in sync with your home
Ta-da.
Wi-Fi, and it's also teleporting. So it uses what they call teleport, which is basically a full tunnel VPN. So it starts up and automatically full tunnels VPN back home. So if you take this to wherever you're traveling, you have internet at the hotel or whatever, and it joins the hotel internet, boom, all your devices log on and they all show up as your home IP address because it's doing a full tunnel.
That's legit.
Just simple.
That's awesome.
It's like the ecosystem is become like really tight and being able to do all these things at once. Now, I don't love lock into ecosystems, and people are like, well, you can't use this travel router with other things. And yeah, that is a fair statement. But I believe this thing is like sub $100. So not that that's not any money at all, but it's also, it's not an unreasonable price for what this device does.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, the people who are going to buy those are going to be people who are using UniFi now, and they're like the whole argument about like being locked into something. If it's your ecosystem, that's what you use.
Yeah,
I mean, like people don't buy those typically if they're using UniFi and there's an option that's UniFi instead of 4, but like they're gonna do that. That's and UniFi knows, or UI knows it is, right. They make the product for the customers, the existing customers. So
I have the new UniFi failover stuff. I'm working on a review on that too. Because it's a 5G backup. And did you ever use Peplink or any of the other ones?
No, I haven't had my hands on those.
So normally what you do is you buy their box. Sometimes they have some big stupid looking antennas on them for 5G or whatever. Some of them look really dumb. If you look them up, you're like, why is it that big? I'm like, I don't know. I guess it's probably for areas of bad signal. But all they do is they give you a port and you plug it into the WAN 2 or whatever, and it's your failover. UniFi just made it brilliantly simple. You buy the box, you pop a SIM in it, or it's got eSIM, you plug in a network adapter, you plug it into a PoE port, and it shows up as if you already have like 2 WANs, it becomes WAN 3. Magic.
That's legit.
You didn't have to plug it into the WAN port. You plug it into your own switch. It creates an encrypted tunnel along the switch with a weird VLAN hidden back over, and just shows up as a WAN port. Then, of course, you don't want all of your networks going out over it because, it's
burn through that data fast, right? Yeah.
You just check boxes. You're like, only allow these networks. Save.
That's awesome.
Like, that's the kind of stuff I like when they this took me like 5 minutes to set up. And I'm like, okay, this is like really easy.
Yeah, I remember back in the day doing with Meraki and having to go get a USB 4G dongle and plug it in there and then hoping it was on the allow list and have it work.
Exactly.
It was a nightmare.
Ooh, trends for 2026 Homelab. I'm thinking more mini PC stuff.
That feels like a safe bet, doesn't it?
It does. No. Here's probably a more realistic bet, because I think this is something we talked about last year, and it's worth talking about again. Like, I love that these mini PCs have become incredibly powerful, quiet, lightweight. I've debated, like, I have all this equipment, I could shut half of it down because the stuff I run in Docker isn't that heavy. But I think a more realistic claim here, I don't think the memory problem is going away anytime soon. So I think repurposing DDR4 systems and DDR maybe all the way back to DDR3 could be a thing where we are getting more mileage, because literally at the RAM prices, if they keep up with this, you're just going to destroy the new PC market. You're going to put pressure on the secondary market just to find something. And I don't know. I think there's just going to be a lot of people like dragging the life of their hardware out a lot longer. Maybe it'll lead to, because tons of our software is just really, really inefficient and poorly written. So maybe there'll be some optimization in software because no one can buy new hardware. So what do you think?
I think I want to be on record saying that 2026 is going to be the year of doing more with less. That's the way I see
more
it.
with less.
That's really, I mean, and for the exact same reasons you said, I think that people are going to be walking up to their IT department saying, "Hey, when's your hardware refresh? Do you guys going to give us any discounts on, stuff?" There's going to be, I have told lots of people, go find, if you live in a bigger-ish area, go find your local like IT hardware recycler, go buy some old desktops that are like 11th gen, 10th gen. You can't necessarily run Windows on them, but that's not what you want to do anyway. Get in there ahead of time. And just, I try not to see this as an assault on, I'm also, let me say one other thing. I am afraid that 2026 will also be the year of hosted services for PCs being pushed as a way to take away you can't afford $1,000 for RAM. Well, you can sign up for our cloud service and you can play video games there, and just normalizing that to the point where we don't have computers anymore for most people. So
I seen someone said it's a conspiracy because we won't use AI, so they're going to take away our computers and force us to use AI. And I said I can't argue with you.
Oh, yeah.
It's also an opportunity for game developers to quit writing bloated games and maybe optimize just a little better. Bring back a little of that spirit that built Doom. I mean, when you dig into, there's a book about it called The Masters of Doom, and like they were doing some stuff to be able to optimize it to the level they did because the hardware of the day was only this fast, and their vision for what Doom was supposed to be was bigger than the hardware. Mm-hmm. And so they had to really, optimize. We're not at that point now. I mean, some games don't get optimized at all when they're released, not till a long time later, if ever. And I look at them going, they're not that impressive for how much horsepower this game takes to run.
Yeah. Not to sound like an old man, but there used to be a time when that was like the thing that developers who were making video games used to do, is they spent the time to try to find how they could, in a sense, hack the way a piece of hardware worked in their console so that they could get some like parallaxing backgrounds and things that didn't exist, weird color things. I mean, and the thing about that though is it's not going to be something that shows up short term. It's going to be something long term where they go, oh, no one's buying our games, I guess we better make it run on a potato now, and that's when they actually do it, until the financial pressures hit. So
yeah, this is a topic that I'm hoping to dive into as a topic, but I don't. Outside of learning, I don't understand using an IDP provider in a home lab. And maybe I just see things differently. So I don't like IDP tied to anything management level. Now, UniFi is kind of an exception because if you're managing a team of people as an MSP, sure, I need an IDP because if I have 30 technicians, I don't want to babysit onboarding, offboarding of and control those technicians. But that's only, by the way, at the site manager level, not necessarily at the level of managing an individual machine for your home lab. But identity, good question. I see someone ask, for those not familiar, IDP refers to as identity providers. I think the most popular open source one out there that I want to do a video on is Authentic. It's spelled with a K at the end, so Authentic. It's really good. I listened to the founder, or at least one of the people that worked there, on a few podcasts. I'm really impressed with it. But I don't federate against an IDP. I don't want a central management at all for like my TrueNAS management interface, or that I have every one of those with unique passwords, because if you don't do that at the management control plane, if someone gets in the IDP, they have keys to the kingdom. The mitigating control, if you will, that I use for the way I keep compartmentalized separation, everything has a different password. To me, IDPs violate that if you're trying to do it from a management standpoint, because now one login gets into all my control planes. The reason they're separate TrueNASs is they are 3 levels of redundancy to each other. So they're all not air gapped. They're on the same networks, but they don't have keys to each other. I talked about pull versus push backups. So I pull the backups from one to another. That way, if you compromise one of these, you would not be able to get to the other one. there's strategies you can do that, but once you put it, if you were to try those to a central identity, kind of problem. Now, from a learning aspect, because if you plan to work in the corporate world, you'll learn a lot about identity providers and
It's a big
all the
job,
pains, and you'll learn a bunch of them, right? Terrible ways they integrate, especially if you work in corporate. You're like, why doesn't this thing talk? Why is this out of sync? I deleted that user. Why is this problem happening today? So it's a good learning opportunity to play with them. But I don't know. It's like, I mean, some people just use the obvious one is like just if you're running a Windows network and run a domain server and call it great. There's also LDAP and things like that are pretty basic, but I'm not big on, like, there's just not enough people here in my lab to actually have a need for it.
Yeah. I mean, I use Active Directory as a way to keep the Windows PCs in sync around the house. That sort of thing. And there was a time when that was part of the day job, so it was also beneficial to be able to break things and play around with it. But yeah, I haven't gone down that route. Everything I've got has also got a local user pass as well. But if you're going to do it, just make yourself a break glass account that works, right? Because when you break your IDP and now you can't log into systems you need to, maybe to fix that IDP, you're in a bad way. So break glass is the way to go.
Yep, that's it. We also have a local management MFA with hardware keys. We also use PIM activation, not including Homelab. Yeah, there's a lot of those things just to have the extra. I don't run any Windows, and my wife doesn't use Windows. My son has a Windows gaming computer, which I'm no interest in tying Active Directory to. So there's not much Windows, because I even moved to. I actually have a laptop I need to sell. I have kind of a weird. I got first world problems, but I'll talk about them real quick. So there was an Asus gaming laptop on sale at Best Buy because it was open box. So I got it. It was way cheaper than I expected. It was like awesome. It's a nice, reasonably fast laptop with I think it's got like a 200 something refresh screen. I don't know. I'm terrible with specs, but I'm probably going to sell it because right after that, about 2 weeks after I buy it, Wendell posts a video and he mentions that he wants to sell his framework. I'm like, oh, hey, Wendell, I see you want to sell your framework. Just give me a price, because he bought it himself. So I bought it, and I bought it from Wendell. But this is where the first world problems come in. It was fast, but it wasn't that fast. And then Wendell got a call because Framework liked his video and said, hey, we'll send you an upgrade. And he goes, well, I don't have the framework anymore, but I know a guy. He probably would do it. He goes, you want to work a framework on an upgrade? I said, what do I got to do? He goes, do a video and they'll give you a free upgrade. I'm like, oh, so now I have a framework with an Ryzen AI chip and a 5070 in it.
Nice.
So that I decided to try Linux gaming on it to really test it out. Now that's my gaming laptop, and the other one's collecting dust. So it's been sitting for a month. I booted it up because Windows and needs a lot of updates. Now I probably will sell it, which is fortuitous because RAM prices are so high. I could probably get more than I paid for it.
Yeah, just take the RAM out and sell the RAM directly, and you'll make more than the laptop cost you, right?
Yeah, really. Yeah, I got to look. I can't remember if it has 32 or 16 in it, and I was just like, I know. It is crazy about how all that happens.
Yeah, I sure hope that maybe 2026 will be the year of the bubble. We'll see. I don't wish any bad on anybody at all. There's a part of me that wishes that this would just pop and we could just all get back to the way, reasonable levels of things. But I don't know.
I feel the same way. It just feels like it's not happening. And I always I like doing memes because that makes it fun. So let me
It's a great way to communicate feelings. Yeah.
It's a great way to communicate feelings. I don't know if you've ever seen that scene, Sell Me This Pen from this is what's going on in the market right now. Sell me this GPU. I will lend you the hardware and call it an investment based on made up numbers so we can just keep moving product. It's completely made up at this point, and it's driving me crazy because it's also causing a lot of data center problems. And I've run into more and more clients that have told me, and one of the ones that I consulted with, I was told some of the places that were charging $2,000 have now gone up to about $8,000 a month for the same rack.
Oh, I believe it. I absolutely believe it.
And they said in matter of fact, one of their challenges is the only data centers they can find that have availability don't offer 240 because they're older places and only have 120.
Oh, and that's why because if they could support it, they'd have sold out already. Yeah.
Yeah. If they supported, they'd sold out already. And so I thought that was kind of really interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've got good connections with a bunch of hardware manufacturers and vendors, and I had heard from the grapevine, like we were getting to the point where where quotes for hardware from some of the big names had a maximum of 15-day lifespans. And
Mhm.
you and I both know that if you're working with business, 15 days for $1 million+ order is a tall order in terms of getting it turned around for any company, right?
Yeah.
Just approvals and all that kind of stuff. And if you miss that 15 days, they're looking at a 20% price hike just in the gear. So it's yeah, if you haven't bought your hardware at this point, and you might as well just buckle up and get a hold of. Oh, the one thing I was going to say too, the third party like long term secondary market hardware support companies, I can't imagine that they will not have to also raise their rates for hardware replacements for stuff, because they're keeping it on the shelf and they could sell that RAM, right? They could sell
Yeah.
that gear. So it's everything's going to go. Everything's going to go up. Buy it now.
Yeah, if you absolutely need it. I mean, it's not the time to buy, but sometimes it is, and I
Yeah.
think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I don't really know where we land on this. It's not an easy market to predict. So,
Yeah. Game Over Dave just said Park Place pricing will go up. Yeah. Yeah. Relutech, Park Place, those companies that are like, end of life hardware support companies, they're gonna get you.
yeah. Well, in Jeff over at Craft Computing just did a video, a couple of them about the new microcloud. Well, not new, old microcloud stuff, but even he said
Mhm.
the demand on that's going up.
Oh yeah.
Because it's kind of like people are looking for what are those efficient things, which is unfortunate. But I hope this leads to people, because the reason DeepSeek was big news in February of 2025 was DeepSeek was the company that was suddenly figuring out how to do training for less. And it was
Mhm.
because all of it, all the software they wrote was so highly optimized. And the way OpenAI has been approaching it is the brute force method, where no one can do what we're doing because no one has the money we have.
Yeah.
Instead of saying we could take less money and be more efficient, they weren't. These people, it's kind of the difference between, if anyone follows Steve Gibson over at GRC, he just released his new DNS benchmark tool, which I'm going to buy. And it's kilobytes in size because he writes everything in assembly.
Oh
It's
yeah.
so
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah. That
Like, there's
guy.
very few people that can do that. I love watching some of the stuff, like when Laura Wired dives deep into some of those topics. But if you learn how to write stuff in assembly, which very few people do, people just load up these over bloated, huge frameworks. We could, we have so much speed in the even the DDR3 things that we have. If people
Right.
really took the time to optimize it, we would not need all this new hardware, and it would be a whole different animal.
Yeah, I mean that's really that's got to be the thing that has to happen, right? Well, and again, for 2026 predictions, if that's the case and optimization ends up becoming the norm, I would imagine it's a second and third at least quarter kind of deal, because they've all everybody has lived off the motto of, well, if it doesn't work well, just upgrade.
Yeah.
Well, we can't do that anymore. So
Um. So this is interesting because it'll force both Proxmox XCP dramatically improve performance monitoring reporting. Um. I don't know that it'll really force them to do it because they have reasonable pieces of it. Also, hypervisors are kind of a big, the magic efficiency over the last number of years is what made VMware so big, is it gives us more efficiently for the any given piece of hardware. I don't have it utilized for just a thing. I can now
mhm.
take this hardware and utilize it for many things. For those of us that were in the early days of tech, that was always interesting because it was like, I have to buy a server for this and a server for this. And this server barely does anything half the day, but I have to load, because you used to separate your DNS servers and separate all of these, and
Right.
they used to be, every one of them was an individual server. You
Yep.
didn't really want to bind those services all together. So we already have a lot of efficiencies that came from that, but yeah, we could still do a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see though. I mean, we've already gone from virtualization to LXC operating system virtualization down to application virtualization with containers. I don't know how much tighter we can get these things, right?
Well, technically, a lot of times as I looked at how many redundant Postgres databases run in my Docker container, because I got, well, my one VM runs all my Docker containers, and I'm realizing there's numerous Postgres. I could make a Postgres that does
That's true.
all. So, But then I'd run into some version conflict because one of the apps would need the new version of Postgres and a bunch of them would need the old version. Then you're back to 2 Postgres again, or as many as you need. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's. I mean, you're right. You're down to operational efficiencies where you're just squeezing out, tenths of percents of performance increase because you're
yeah,
doing that, and that's a risk too, right? If you were able to successfully pull something like that off, then, like you said, then one thing breaks and or your Postgres server goes down. Now all your containers are offline, and you're back to a single server running everything.
yeah. Let's see. I was thinking IAM Entra ID for every possible door access with UniFi SSO looks costly. Yeah, I've not really messed with it. They do have integration with door access and everything else integrated. That's my next thing. I'm going to build in my basement a unified door access setup, not because I need it, but I just want to make sure I have like a complete setup, and I want it to control the door where my server room is. So it's actually not going to lock it. It's just going to make a light come on to pretend it's unlocked. I'm not going to put a full door swipe in.
Yeah.
No, I just want to put like a setup so it's set up like it would be. I just want to make sure it functions, and that way when I'm testing new things with it, because I've got a lot of clients, we've sold some of them, and I understand how they work, but sometimes I want to be able to test a scenario and not lock myself out of my own server room.
Just get yourself a solenoid hooked up to it, so at least when you beep it, it goes thunk. And then
that's what I want to do.
Even if it's not actually pulling a electrified lock, right? It just makes a noise.
I don't even know how I would really do this, because the doors I put on are those barn doors. They all slide. So that door behind me is also a sliding door. So I don't know how I imagine I could I don't know.
A mag lock. You just get yourself a mag lock. That's what you got to do.
I could make it work.
Yeah, you can make it work.
Because I don't have because of the way the front of my house is, I don't have a doorbell spot. So I thought about putting the unified doorbell on the other side of the door so people can like press it before they come in my office.
You have to, and then you need a buzzer to buzz them in, though, Tom. If that's the case, you're going to have that, because that's the only thing that makes sense, right? You may enter D, and there it goes, right?
Yeah, my other project is I got to put an on-air light. I'm going to do some pseudo remodeling in January. So whenever these lights come on, my overhead lights are only on, like these are studio lights above me. They're only on when the camera comes on. It's all controlled through Home Assistant. So I'm just going to have a plug that runs over to a light on the other side of the wall that just says on air, so people know that I'm not just goofing off. I'm actually recording something. I'm usually goofing off in here, but
I had to do that a long time ago too. Having kids that live at home and having a studio at home meant that I needed a light, and I have to militarily police that light. Like that light, if it's on, you cannot enter. It's on right now, Tom. It's just on the other side of that door.
Exactly. It's like you don't want, because it's already, like we said at the beginning, you already see things wrong enough. You don't want to lose your whole train of thought because someone said, "Hey, I need $10, Dad."
Yeah, that's it. What's for dinner? That's always
what's for dinner. I just wanted to know. Yeah,
door flies wide open. What's for dinner? Like, are you serious right now? That was a good take. It's ruined. Thank you.
Yeah. Always fun.
Well, cool.
Yeah, we've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes. We wind it down here.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. I seen someone ask earlier, and the answer is still yes. I'm in the forums a lot. That's the easiest place to find me. What about you, Rich? Where does people reach out to you? Your Discord?
Yeah, we have a Discord. It's totally free. And it's. I was watching the chat go by here, and I see a lot of. I think we have, Tom. You and I basically have a very shared audience, right?
Yeah.
So like, I know that guy. I know that guy. I know that guy right there. So yeah, if you want to hang out with me, I hop into our Discord. It's free. That's the best place to get a hold of me.
Yep. I can be summoned on Discord. I'm very good at asynchronous, but not real-time communication. So I check my forums twice a day. I reply to all the messages. I reply to my emails twice a day. Like I have rituals like that. Discord is also treated much the same way. So I go through and read all the notifications about once a day on Discord. So
I need to have your regimen. I will literally go boop. I'm just going to go over here and answer that question and go back to what I'm doing over here. That context shifting is tough.
Yeah, I answer questions at night because I'll just use my phone for it. But over the years, I've just gotten to be a lot more concise with my time, especially since I've sold the MSP, because everything was prioritized on the MSP. But now that I don't have the active contracts on the MSP and I just have a consultancy now, I'm not on call. I'm not the fire department. So if there's I mean, I'll do my best, because I've had people reach out with emergencies, just because that's how life happens. If you have a skill to fix something and someone did something, they're looking for someone, sometimes they'll reach out to you on a Saturday, which I did help someone in a data center. Well, I helped them, not in the way they wanted. I just delivered some really bad news to them of what happened and what gone wrong. I said, I'm not going to charge you. I'm just going to tell you what I am very confident. Run these commands and tell me the output. And they did. I said, I have really bad news. I'm not going to charge you, because I feel this would be insult to injury. Thank you for reaching out. That is very, very broken right now. You will have to go through the recovery process if you have one. So,
yes. Have a nice day. Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, I'm sorry when you've lost that much of your Z pool. It isn't coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they wanted me to remote into it. I'm like, I mean, I will. I have an emergency after hours rate, but it was like once they ran some commands and they lost that many drives, I'm like, yeah, it was rip.
Just, it becomes a backup and restore question at that point, right?
Yeah. I was like, I hope you have backups, and they're like, no. I was like, well, then I can suggest recovery companies at this point. Yeah, that's all I can really point you to. I'm not a hard drive recovery expert. This is something you will have to do. You will have to get the drive that has failed back, at least one of those.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, for the most part, I've been a little bit more deliberate with my time, a little bit more concise, which has been fun. It's a weird training habit, because I mean, I have been doing this since 2003 as a business. So 95 was my first tech job. 2003 started the company, and now this is first time I'm like 2026, because now that I'm fully independent, it's just going to be, I don't know, just projects.
That's where to be, right? That's I get the most joy from the projects. They may not necessarily be the thing that brings the tons of views, but like there's satisfaction in that you can't get from other things. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I hacked together, speaking of Reasoner, I did hack together some old Raspberry Pi 3s. They're going to be, I've been using them for network testing. It's kind of a fun way. Just all I'm doing is making them ping each other and really basic functions, but it's to show how the firewall rules work. I'm like, this is a cool way to present this. Here's a couple Raspberry Pis. They're physically at these ports. You can see how I ping things back and forth, and you see when I change the firewalls, what they have access to, et cetera, et cetera. So trying to work on some, that was actually my goal today, was updating how I present all the data so I can record the video tomorrow. Yeah. Because yes, we're YouTubers. We work on whenever days.
Yeah. Basically every day is the way I would describe it. At least there's a good chunk of something in that day that has something to do with YouTube, even if it's a weekend.
It is weekend. There's all kinds of gadgets and stuff we got to play with. But thanks everyone for joining. You know where to find us. Find me at Lawrence Systems, and find Rich at Two Guys Tech, and check out his videos. He's done the recent video on the Proxmox data center, so watch it. That's how I learned about it. As one of these days I'll set it up, but until then I'm gonna watch Rich's videos on it.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Take care.
See ya.